Fear does not announce itself. It creeps in. It's on us to figure out how it actually does that. It doesn't come through the front door and say, hey man, I'm gonna help you damage all your relationships, or help you stay stuck, or self-sabotage. It shows up through behavior. What I want to do is highlight the 3 ways that I've seen fear show up in my military and clinical experience. They're not clean, they're not clear-cut, and usually there's no quick fix. So if you're going to actually square up with fear to get where you want to go, the first thing that you need to do is abandon your addiction to quick fixes and recognize that fear is deeply rooted in the brain structure, which is actually where I want to start. To make this simple, to spot fear, I want you to think of a term that you've probably already heard before: fight, flight, and freeze. That's a reference to a small part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is also called the fear center of the brain. And one of the things that it does is shape our initial reaction to a threat. So fight, flight, and freeze. How do those actually show up in your daily life? So let's actually start with fight, because that's probably the easiest one to illustrate. And yes, I'm playing with a pen that my 7-year-old gave me because she's awesome. So fight. How does that brain reaction actually show up in the real world when you're living at home doing dishes, when you're at work just getting something done? Think of a time where you've been grumpy or irritable. And caveat, not every time that you are grumpy or irritable or frustrated is a fear response, but there is a big correlation between the two, so it's worth noting. When we don't feel like we're able to change a situation that we actually care about, that causes a big emotional reaction. What that could look like is I'm mad about something at work, so I take it out on the dishes, or I become a little bit snippy with my wife or my kids. The big piece to connect here is I feel something with now I do something. So feelings and behavior, that's a really big part of something called cognitive behavioral therapy in counseling. So you might be asking at this point, like, dude, how is that fear? I'm just mad about something that happened at work. True, sometimes it's not that deep, but if I had a magic wand like this, and I could wave it and you could have everything that you want, your work situation changes, your home situation changes, your bank account situation changes, you would take me up on that. You would ask for the magic wand. All right, so why don't you do it? Because there's a shit ton of uncertainty in work that comes between where you are and where you want to be. When you start to boil things down and get to the fundamentals, you recognize that you really only have a couple of core emotions. One of the biggest ones is fear. And the reason that we don't pursue those massive life changes that we really want, something with our work, something with home, something with our bank account, is because we are scared. When we feel blunted, like we don't have the confidence level to be able to tackle that task, that's when we start to project our fear outward. The lack of faith to change your life circumstances translates into fear and shows up through your behavior, i.e., you're not getting mad at your kids or your wife or your boss because of that one particular thing that was the trigger, but the deeper cause is that you're not happy with where you are and you're scared to actually close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The second fear response is freeze. Sometimes we stall, we lock up, we become so anxious about the thing that we need to do that we don't know what to do at all. I've actually got a really good story about this. When I was 18, maybe 19, I don't know. I was in North Carolina at gun school. We had already graduated boot camp. All Marines who go the infantry route need to go to a place called Camp Geiger, on the east of the Mississippi at least. My job was a machine gunner. You got to test out on 3 big guns, the 240, the 50 cal, and the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. When I was testing out on the grenade launcher, and this is like no live ammo, nothing like that, like really low stakes. We're in a classroom, you just got to break it down, put it back together, stuff like that. I locked up so hard, I didn't know what to do. My combat instructor pulls me out of the classroom after I failed the test, mind you, gives me a smack to the back of the head to sober me up, looks me dead in the eye, and he's like, dude, you need to take a breath. This was the guy that trained me how to disassemble, then reassemble all these big guns with a ton of moving parts. He was the one who was well within his right to chew me out and all these other things, but he didn't, because he knew that for me, I was just worried about failing the test. His goal in that moment with the smack in the back of the head and the little pep talk was to get me to calm down, to regulate so I could access the stuff that I already knew. When we freeze, when we lock up because we are scared, that is fear showing up again through behavior. It's on us to call a spade when we are nervous, anxious, fearful, full of fear. It's on us to square up with that fear and actually address it. We need to go through it, not around it. Chances are you're not testing out on a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher today, but there is something that you want to do. It's a hard conversation with your boss, with your wife. You have a side project that you really want to get going on. There is something in your life that you want to accomplish, but you feel nervous, anxious, fearful. Slow down and take a breath. That is the fear trying to get in your head through your behavior. It's very important to be able to call it normal because it is. It is the natural human condition. It's not the presence of fear that is the issue. It is acting in that fear that is the issue. Last one, number 3, flight. The biggest 2 that come to mind here are perfectionism and avoidance. Perfectionism being the big one because perfectionism is something that really looks good. It's easy to justify and rationalize. We can say things like, hey man, I need this to get right. I need to get this perfect. Truth is, we know in our hearts that nothing's gonna actually be perfect. We know that we gotta put our best foot forward and actually be able to go through the discomfort of if we try our hardest and fail, that shit's on us. So really what that flight response is I'm avoiding, I'm going away from the thing that scares me. This is why exposure therapy even exists in the first place. In the military, there's a different term, it's called embrace the suck, which is pretty much just like, hey, there's really nothing around me that feels good. There's nothing that immediately is gratifying. My job is to stay present in the context of that discomfort, of that fear. Therapists have a different term. They don't call it embrace the suck. They call it distress tolerance. I prefer embrace the suck, but you pick whatever one you want. For you, I encourage you to take an inventory of your daily behaviors. Are there areas where you're relying on perfectionism to get something done? Are there other areas where you're just straight up avoiding the thing that needs to get done? Either way, they point to the same thing. You just don't want to go through the thing that's causing you discomfort. And guess what? That makes you human, because I feel the same thing. Again, feeling fear is not the issue. Acting in fear is. That's why raising your awareness level is the most critical piece. It's at least the first step in changing this process of loosening the grip that fear has on our lives. It doesn't matter if you're trying to improve your health, wealth, relationships. Fear embeds itself in the human condition. It sounds vague up until you realize that you have emotional reactions that trace back to fear. So here's the takeaway. Fear shows up in 3 distinct ways: fight, flight, freeze. That can look like a bunch of different things, ranging from perfectionism to projection to stalling. Recognize how it shows up for you in particular, find your patterns, find your triggers. I used to hate that word until I realized that, damn man, those trigger things are really real. There are certain things that get to the best of me that I feel viscerally. You got your triggers too, and once you identify them, that's where your work is. So look man, you're human, I'm human, we're all just trying to figure this stuff out. If you want a spot, I got a free guide. It's called 7 Days to Emotional Clarity. It's linked in my bio. It's a simple first step to start recognizing what it is that you're feeling, why it keeps showing up, and how to actually address it. Check it out if you want, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you're most fearful of and how you plan to address it.